Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name's Debbie. Today I am doing some Valentine DIYs. So I am starting with DIY number one, and I'm using these wood hearts that I got from Amazon. It's just cheaper to buy them in bulk for me. I'm going to give these a coat of white paint, both sides, because I am going to decoupage on top of them, and I want all my papers to look crisp when I get them on there. So I chose papers from this paper pad from Dollarama. The pad is called Delilah, and I only paid $4 for it, but it is a very thin paper, like a copy paper. But the colors are gorgeous on these paper pads, and the prints and patterns are fun. And yeah, so don't pass these up when you see them at Dollarama. So I'm choosing the papers that I want for a heart garland. I'm choosing lots of papers, but I'm only going to use a small amount of each sheet. Now I'm going to take, not each heart, but I'm going to take a heart and I'm going to trace two onto each piece of paper. But I'm just loosely tracing them. I'm not going right close to the edge of the heart, just in case there's a little difference between each of the hearts and they're not exactly the same. And I'm going to cut out all of my little hearts, and then the fun part starts. I am going to decoupage these onto the hearts, just on one side. I'm going to leave the back side white. So I'm putting my decoupage medium. In my case, it's just Mod Podge, but I'm pressing down the edges really, really well. I do not want the edges of these popping up. And yeah, so I just had fun decoupaging all of these little paper hearts onto their wooden backgrounds. It's really easy to do. Just make sure you've got a nice even coat and you've got that glue all the way to the edge. Now, because I just cut these a little bit bigger, they aren't going to wrap around the edge, but when I press them down, I can actually kind of bend the paper right over the edge and make sure that the paper on each heart is really down, really secure. Then leave them to dry, and then to take the excess paper off, you can use a sanding block. In my case, I'm just using an emery board, and you just make sure you're always pushing down and away from the heart. You're not pushing up on the paper, so you don't want to lift it. All the paper's off my edges. I've got nice clean edges. Now I need some holes to string these. And I am going to use this tool from We Are Memory Keepers. I can't remember the name of the tool, but this one punches holes and puts in eyelets. And I just put a hole on either side, and then I'm taking a piece of jute twine and I'm going down from the front and then up from the back so that the major part of the twine runs across the back of the heart. Now make sure when you're stringing your hearts that you have your holes punched above the halfway mark up your heart, because if you don't, the top half of your heart will be top heavy and it'll flip upside down on you all the time. You'll have a hard time stringing these. Yeah, it was just a real nuisance if you don't get that hole high enough up on the heart. So I have a bunch of these strung on my jute twine. Now I'm just measuring my jute twine to see how long I need it for where I want to hang these. So just measure and then tie a loop on each end so that you can hang your garland. And then I wanted to add some fabric in between each of the wooden hearts. So I just went through a little stack of really pretty floral fat quarters that I had. And I chose one that had colors in it that I thought would match the hearts nicely. So I'm going to just take my scissors and make a little clip in the edges along this fabric and then rip it into a pile of strips that I have here. Once you've got your strips, go along and tear off all of those little bits of strings and things. It'll make your little bits look a lot nicer, but it also kind of roughs up and gives a little bit of a fringed edge and makes them look a little more shabby chic, I guess. Sorry about that sun shining across my table right there, but it's the first time the sun's shone in so long. I'm rather enjoying it. So I'm just going to take all my strips and loop them over my jute twine in between my hearts and at both ends. I think I put 2 pieces between each heart, and this turned out so stinking cute. I have a shelf that is right in front of my living room window that has plants on top of it and just a few items on the shelves. And I wanted to hang this there, and it ended up so perfect. So here it is. Once again, it's a little harder to see because of that light shining through the windows, but yeah, this turned out really cute. Okay, moving on to DIY number 2, I am going to use 3 of these 8-inch embroidery hoops from Amazon. I'm going to use this jute ribbon. This ribbon is 5 inches wide, so it's the perfect width already, and I don't have to cut anything. I'm going to use some red flowers. These are from Dollarama. The ribbon's from Dollarama as well. And I'm going to use the Love You More words off of this sign and keep the rest of the bits for another project. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this embroidery frame apart. I am going to attach the jute ribbon to this, but I'm going to make a pocket on the bottom half of this. So I'm going to use the ribbon doubled over on itself, if that makes sense. So I'm just folding, a double length of this. And then I'm going to use my hot glue gun, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue down on the bottom half of this embroidery hoop, and I'm going to stretch this across there. That'll hold it well while I'm putting on the top ring. You can kind of see what I'm doing. You don't need to glue down both layers of this ribbon. It's a really open weave, and the glue just soaked right up through both layers. Now I want to put the top ring back on, and just be careful if you're doing this that you get that fastener right at the top center, because this is what you're going to put your ribbon through so that you can hang this on the wall. And just make sure it's loose enough that it'll go down over, press it on really, really good. And when you have the front and the back hoop all lined up, tighten the fastener back up and trim the back off so that it's nice and clean and will lay flat. Okay, so I'm taking all of these florals and I'm cutting them off the stems because I'm not trying to make a big bouquet in here. I just want something that's going to lie nice and flat against the wall. Before I put those florals in, I want to use the words off of this banner on the front of each one of my little pockets. So I'm starting with the word love, trimming everything that I don't need off, and then I'm going to pull a few threads off of here and fray the edge just a tiny little bit, just so that it doesn't have a cut edge. Then I need to hot glue this onto the front of my pocket, and it's going to glue the pocket shut if I don't put something in there to protect it. So I just grabbed a sheet of parchment paper here and folded it to fit in the pocket to protect it, and I can pull it back out when I'm done. A little bit of hot glue is all it takes, and I'm going to lay this right on there. This is just made for it. Jute on jute. Just looks like the word was made to go on the front of that little pocket. So now I'm going to put the florals in, and I'm just going to lay them in a nice row across the pocket. And all I'm doing is putting a tiny, tiny little dab of hot glue on one leaf and tucking it over the front and tacking it down, because I may want to pull these out of here at a later date and change the florals out. I may use tulips next year, or depending on what I have. So I'm I'm making 3 hangers at the same time so that I have them all the same size. And this is just a Dollarama ribbon. I'm going to just shove the ribbon through that fastener and make a little knot, and this is ready to go. Then I'm going to do the other two exactly the same way, and this is what they look like when they're done. I'm just thrilled the way these turned out. I think that they're perfect for the little space behind my coffee bar. Okay, on to DIY number 3. I have these two little signs from Dollarama. These are raw wood. They're that pressed fiberboard. The word love and the XOXO with the hearts instead of the O's. These are really cute, and I want to use them on my coffee bar, on my tiered trays. I'm going to give these both a coat, front, back, and all the sides. All of it shows is going to get 2 coats of chalk paint. And I'm using chalk paint because it's like a paint and primer in one. Once that white paint is completely dry, you can take your red acrylic paint then and do a couple of coats of the red paint just on the top of the hearts. I've given the sides of these a really good coverage with the white paint, so I'm being careful not to drip down the sides, and I'm just keeping this completely on the surface. And I'm going to do 2, I think maybe even 3 coats of red paint on top of the hearts to make them really opaque, to get really good coverage on them. And then wait until they are completely dry, and I mean really dry, before you try to do the next step, or it really ruins your paint pens. So I'm going to use just the acrylic white paint pen, and I am going to add my stitching on these hearts. I think this little faux stitching line just absolutely completes this and makes the red hearts blend in with the white letters so much more. And even though that white stitching just looks so perfect, I couldn't stop there. I grabbed just a red Sharpie and I decided I was going to add red stitching on my letters as well. And you know what? I'm really glad I did, because I love the way they turned out. I just love them, and I'm going to enjoy putting these on my tiered trays and using them in my decor for years to come. Okay, for DIY number 4, I'm going to use this garden stake, 2 square dowels, and this little wooden crate here. And they all came from Dollarama. And I'm going to give them all 2 really solid coats of this white chalk paint. And then I'm going to let them dry really well. So I've cut down the garden stake, as you can see, and that's going to be my sign. And I've got these 2 little dowels cut down to the height that I want. And I chose the square dowels because they're just so much easier to hot glue into the corners. They work really great for these little projects. And I'm just going to hold them there for a minute, and I'm going to use a pencil to make sure my lettering all fits on my little garden stake here. And then I'm going to use a red Sharpie, and I just wrote Kissing Booth, and I'm going to put a little heart. I also have these little wooden hearts that have clothespins on them. There was a package of multiple colors, 2 different shades of pink and red, I believe. And I couldn't figure out how to get them off. But guys, these scissors I grabbed a hold and then just popped them off like that. So easy. And now it's time to put this thing together. So I'm going to use a little hot glue on my sign and put it on the dowels like this, because I want my little sign at the back of this tray, or box or whatever it's called. And I'm just going to hot glue these little wooden hearts across the front. These are the perfect size and the perfect. I was so glad I went back in my stash and found these because I wasn't going to use them to start with. And then I added a little bow up in the corner at the top too. And look how cute this turned out. So that's my 4 DIYs for you today. I hope you enjoyed them. Leave me a comment and let me know which one was your favorite. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and do that now before you leave. And I will see everyone in the next video. Bye-bye for now, everyone.